Love under the scope.
Welcome to Love Under the Scope. This is a podcast where we will explore all of the ups and downs, the realities of being in a long-term relationship with another human being. Sometimes we'd like to think it could be perfect all the time, no problems, no issues, but the reality is there will be obstacles that we overcome together. That's the point of a relationship, is going through some kind of conflict together and coming out on the other side as a stronger couple. So on the show, I want to talk about just that, the conflict, the uncomfortable parts that can come up, the fear that we might have in a relationship, all of the parts that you don't see on social media, you don't see on TV and in movies. Everything is just wonderful. You're seeing all of the highlights, but in real life, we have challenges, we have hardships. And so that is what I aim to explore here on this show. My name is Kelby Lauren. I am a certified love, sex, and relationship coach. I love this work. I am very passionate about exploring romantic relationships, how we can navigate them in compassion and in truth, facing the shit that we don't want to face. But if we do face it, it ends up creating a lot more love, trust, and connection in our relationship. I'm also in a 7-year-long relationship with a person who has really helped me understand the dynamic between two people in a relationship and how we can navigate these ups and downs in a way that is supportive to both of us. There's no winner or loser. We have done a lot of work together. We have done a lot of repair through arguments that we've had, and just facing a lot of stuff that was uncomfortable. We had a big move together. We moved across the country together in a truck with our cats in the back seat. That was a huge learning experience. And we've pushed through some experiences that sometimes I was like, how the hell did we do that? Are we going to make it through this? I questioned, are we meant to be together? Is this real? Am I crazy? Am I really meant to be in a relationship? I'm so glad that we have come through all of that. And here we are now, the great relationship that I'm very proud of. And that's part of why I have started this show. Today's topic is kind of a tough one. It's control. And we're going to talk about how we can be controlling in our relationships. Yes, I will touch on how we can be controlled by people and how we can actually submit to control with our partners. But my main focus in this episode is going to be how we can be the instigators of control. No, you don't have to be a narcissist to be controlling and to impose subtle controlling behavior on your partner. It's not just about us screaming and yelling at our partner. There are much more subtle ways that we will try and attempt to control our partner. I say attempt because you can't actually control someone else. We're all independent beings, but we will try to do that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. What is control? How does it manifest in a relationship? What could it sound like? What could it look like? Where does it come from? And how can we address our own controlling behavior, not only in the relationship, but with ourselves? Usually, if we are trying to control our partner, we are probably doing the same thing inside of ourselves. We're trying to repress and control our own behaviors, our own emotions. Control is a relationship killer. It totally erodes our sense of trust, our connection, our sexuality with each other. It can create a lot of animosity and resentment between a couple. And if gone unaddressed, it can totally implode the relationship. So control is definitely something that we want to address sooner rather than later. And I hope that this episode helps you in order to do that. It takes a lot of bravery. It takes honesty with ourselves about our own behaviors, which is not an easy thing to do a lot of the time. It takes that level of honesty in order to actually address and take care of our controlling behaviors. I want to emphasize that control is not just something that narcissists do. The average person can be quite controlling in subtle ways with their partner. We mean well. We are not monsters. We are not trying to ruin our partner's life. We just might not have the tools to communicate what it is we're needing. And so it can come across as controlling, manipulative, and it can become the normal in our relationship. It just becomes the way that we function, what we're used to, especially if we were modeled those same behaviors by our parents. It's just the way that we live. Control is not a gendered thing. Control can be done by men, by women, by anyone. Anyone can try to impose controlling behaviors on their partner. And the interesting thing is, we can both be the controller and the person who is being controlled. We can be both at the same time. So your partner might be controlling around money, and you might be controlling around household tasks. On that note, let's get into the meat of today's subject. What actually is control? We hear the word control, and we might not know, how does it actually look and how does it feel? Like I said, control can become the norm that we are used to in our relationship. So it's really important, I believe, to define and to give examples of what control can look like so that you can understand, is this something I am actually experiencing and going through in my own relationship? In general, control will come up as this urge to tell our partner what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and why. Basically, feeding our partner a script of, hey, this is how you should be living according to how I believe we all should be living. It could be the way that they spend their money, the way that they clean, the way that they take care of themselves. Are you nagging them that they need to go to the dentist 1,000 times a week? When they are trying to complete a task like doing the laundry, are you interfering midway through and telling them, no, you should be doing it this way. You should be adding 1 laundry pod instead of 2. Why do you always add 2? That's such a waste. Are you interfering and completely taking over? Hey, bug off. Let me do this because I know how to do this better. Are you criticizing the way that your partner dresses, the way that they act? Are you asking them to act or speak differently around your friends or your family? When I say criticize, I don't just mean, wow, you look so ugly in that outfit. I'm talking about subtle little digs. Yeah, I don't really think that shirt goes with those pants. Unless they're asking for your feedback, are you giving it to them without them even asking? And are you giving it to them in these subtle ways that can slowly erode at their sense of freedom, of being able to dress themselves and express themselves in a way that feels good for them? Are you trying to micromanage your partner? If your partner has a big personality, are you asking them to be smaller, to be less? If they have a smaller personality, if they're kind of shy, are you asking them to be bigger? Are you asking them to be more bold? Are you maybe not asking them, but telling them? Control can show up as feelings of worry about your partner. So you're genuinely worried about their health, but then when you go to communicate that to them, it comes across as you nagging them to, again, get to the dentist, to start working out. Are you not communicating your feelings of worry in the most compassionate way possible? Are you the type of person, and I want you to be very honest, because most of us are this thing that I'm about to say. Are you the type of person who thinks you know best in any given situation? Are you imposing that onto your partner? I know what's best for you. You should be going to the dentist every 6 months because XYZ. Even if that's true, are you doing that because that's a sense of control? That is a controlling behavior. Are you controlling your partner with emotions? That could look like withholding affection from your partner until they come around and see something from your perspective and agree with your way. Are you giving your partner the cold shoulder? Are you using your emotions of sadness, anger, worry, fear in order to manipulate how your partner feels? When I looked up control on ChatGPT, specifically control in relationships, it put controlling behavior into different buckets. So we can control our partner emotionally. We can control them around their sense of communication and how they express themselves. We can control our partner's behavior. We can attempt to control our partner based on feeling worried about them. We might genuinely be coming from a good place, but we are needing better ways of communicating that to our partner so that we are not eroding at their own sense of trust, not only with us, but with themselves. No matter what the controlling behavior is, and I encourage you to expand on the list that I just gave. That was just a very small tidbit of how control could show up. But no matter how it's showing up, it never feels good for either party. It doesn't feel good, obviously, to be controlled. It can make you feel small, stupid, incompetent, ugly, worthless. So many things that somebody trying to control you can make you feel. But also being controlling doesn't feel good either. From the outside, it might look like a power trip. And that could be true to some extent. But a lot of the time, trying to control another person, which again is not possible. We cannot control another person. Completely impossible. Therefore, attempting to do that over and over again is basically like spinning your wheels all the time. So it doesn't feel good. It feels very uncomfortable to attempt to control somebody. And I'm sure you have felt this in your own life, whether you're in a relationship or maybe you have children, maybe you have nieces or nephews, maybe you have an animal that you have tried to control by yelling at them, by criticizing them, by telling them over and over and over and over again why they shouldn't do this or say this or act a certain way. Did it feel good to do that for you? Did it feel good to impose yourself on another person that way? I can tell you for me, when I have acted in these ways, it has been extremely uncomfortable. We as women especially can get into this feeling of I'm nagging him. We feel like we are nagging. Well, let me tell you, nagging, although it might look from the outside, again, like a power trip, on the inside, it feels very uncomfortable. As women, we wonder after we've nagged our partner, well, does he hate me now? Does he think I'm a miserable bitch? The nagging doesn't just happen and then we move on. We carry that feeling of stress, of desperation inside of us after the controlling behavior occurs. I think of it like if you were trying to hold onto a pile of sand, if you were trying to cup your hands together and hold sand in your palms. And if somebody told you for the next 30 minutes, hold this sand, that's what controlling somebody looks like. You can't physically do it. The sand is going to slip between your fingers. And more as time goes by through that 30 minutes, that desperation creeps in because with each second, sand granules are falling through the crevices and the cracks in your hands. It's just not possible. A lot of the time, the person who is being controlling feels like they have to monitor their partner. Like I am a parent to my partner. And just like a parent does with a child, I'm having to monitor every little thing they do and make sure they do it the quote unquote correct way, aka my way. Are they living right according to my rules? And so this vigilance that we have to have when we are believing that control is necessary at every step, because that's what it is. It's a belief. I must control my partner. Well, I have to. A lot of the time we build our relationship dynamic on the belief that I must be this way. It just has to happen this way. Otherwise, bad things could happen. The ironic part is control will never lead to change at the root. Control may lead to superficial change that is covering up some level of animosity. Yeah, I changed my behavior because I was afraid of you. I was scared of how you would react. I was angry. I was fed up with you attacking me and nagging me and coming at me when I didn't do it according to your way. So yes, I changed, but I did it begrudgingly. Change coming from animosity never leads to more connection, never leads to more love. Change coming from animosity creates disconnection. It creates resentment. It actually distances us from our partner. We become an authority figure to our partner. And if you think about authority, we fear authority a lot of the time, especially growing up. We fear the ramifications of our actions. We fear the consequences that could come from our parents, our teachers, law enforcement. There's a level of fear. Do we ever want to have a level of fear in our relationship? Generally, I would say no. Fear is the antithesis to love. And don't we all want to be building more love at any turn? Where do controlling behaviors usually come from? Well, on some level, they can actually be demonstrated to us by our parents. We actually learn that this is the normal way of being a partner. So I watched my mom or my dad manipulate and subtly control my other parent in emotional ways, in behavioral ways, in communication. I watched my parents do this behavior, therefore it is the default for me. So some level of me believes that I must act this way. This is how you do it. This is how women are with men. This is how you treat a man, or vice versa. This is how men are with women. I will say that women, I can speak to this because I am a woman, women are often taught by our mothers, by our grandmothers, our aunts, and other peers that in order to be in a relationship with a man, you must control him. You must nag him. You must tell him why he did the dishes wrong. You must tell him why he needs to take the trash out for the 5th time today. The same could be said for men. Men have their own ways of attempting to control women. They do it in very different ways, which I won't speak to now, but I can speak from my experience that yes, I watched women do this with their partners. And so I believed fully that it was normal to want to control your partner, whether it was conscious or subconscious, that this was just what you do with a man. You control him as if he is a child. You belittle him in this subtle, again, subconscious way. This is what you do. It's so unfortunate because that's not true. Women and men were not meant to look down on each other and attempt to control and put each other into these boxes. That's not true. It is not true that as women, we must tell men how to do household tasks, that we must be trying to tell him how to live, how to dress himself, how to be. We have better things to do with our lives. I know me personally, I have a lot of other ways that I would like to spend my energy than hovering over my partner with every little thing he does, telling him why he's doing it incorrectly and that he should actually do it this way. And I know that in the times when I have done that, it's because I felt that way about myself. I felt that I was not good enough. I felt that I was not doing life correctly, and therefore I needed to be controlled by myself. And it's a very uncomfortable way to live. Nobody should have to live in the confines of their own control, a prison that we have built for ourselves, and then we then try to impose that onto our partner with less than desirable results. We will attempt to project that control onto our partner because it's our way of coping with reality. As children, we may have learned that we needed to control or repress or subdue or change certain parts of ourselves because they were not desirable by society. If I grew up believing that I was too much, that I was too loud, that I was too big of a personality, I may have learned to repress that in order to appease society, my parents, my family. And therefore, that part of me, it's still there. It's just being squished down. Now, oftentimes when we go out in the world looking for a partner, we will look for a person who has the qualities that we in ourselves have repressed. And therefore, we sort of admire our partner for those same qualities. So again, if I repressed my bigness and I felt I was too much, then I might look for a partner who has a big personality. like a yin and yang kind of thing. You're filling in that part of me that I repressed within myself. And at first, we love that about them. We feel like maybe we've found our match, like a puzzle piece, two pieces coming together, and it's a perfect fit. Over time, after the honeymoon phase passes, we will start to become annoyed or angered, bothered by that part of them, probably because we are recognizing that, hey, I wasn't allowed to be that. Or we're worried that them having those qualities, let's say of bigness, of having a big personality, we learned that that was not safe. And therefore, we are now trying to impose the control that we put on that part of ourselves onto our partner. Oftentimes, we are actually just trying to survive. So if you look at this from the perspective of the child who did the repressing, you can see that the child was actually just trying to survive, to be loved and to be cared for by their parents. And so now in our adulthood, when we project and we attempt to control, that's where the desperation comes in. We are desperately trying to control and to suppress these qualities in our partner because for us, it was a means of survival in order to do so. When we look at our own controlling behaviors, I would emphasize some level of self-compassion being brought in. Now, this can be easier said than done. Oftentimes, we do need to work with maybe a coach or a therapist like myself who specializes in self-love because it can be very emotional to bring stuff back up from our childhood that we possibly haven't taken a look at since childhood. We may have pushed it down until now in our adulthood. So doing so with a therapist or a coach is very helpful so that we can maintain a sense of self-compassion. We created these parts of ourselves, these controlling parts of ourselves, because we felt we needed to in order to live. Any living organism is just trying to survive. And that definitely includes our inner child, human beings. We appease our caregivers, our parents, in order to survive. And this controlling piece is certainly part of that. I want to mention that self-compassion piece before we get into how we can actually mitigate these controlling behaviors within ourselves. Step one would be you're listening to this show and you're starting to build an awareness of, oh shit, yeah, I do those things. It's awareness. Step one is having the brave awareness of, oh yeah, I actually can be subtly controlling with my partner. Did you identify with any of the examples that I gave earlier? Or maybe you have your own. In what ways do you subtly attempt to control your partner? I'm going to make a bold statement and say that all of us have subtle ways of controlling our partner. We might be doing it actively, or we might be passively controlling our partner. Like I said, stonewalling, laying around, not responding to anything they're saying. So there are passive ways that we control our partner as well. Can you take the step with bravery and self-compassion to acknowledge and become aware of your own controlling behaviors? That is step one. Step two would be feeling into how do you experience, how does it feel to be controlling in this way? Most likely, there is some level of discomfort. Even if you might get off a little on the power trip, it's usually just a surface level amount of power. Deep down, it's usually quite uncomfortable, quite stressful to be in this controlling behavior. I would even ask you, if your partner is the controlling one, how does it feel to submit to their control? Do you feel small? Do you feel powerless? Where do you feel that? Does your gut clench? If you are the controlling one, how does that feel for you in your body? Do your shoulders tense up? Do you feel like you're seeing red? You feel all like a mess in your brain? How does it feel in your body to either be controlling or be controlled? Okay, here's a big one. And I know it's a big one because I got to chill before asking this. What are you giving up by attempting to control your partner? And likewise, what are you giving up by submitting to being controlled by your partner? I would say for either side, you're giving up some level of freedom. If you are the controlling one, you are giving up the freedom of your own life to spend your energy in ways other than monitoring your partner all the time, wondering what they're doing, how they're doing it, if they're going to say it this way this time, are they going to embarrass you again? We are entitled to having our feelings. If we're worried about the way our partner communicates, we are entitled to those feelings. It's just the manner in which we are expressing our feelings. It's coming off controlling. We're trying to put our partner into a box. So how does that feel? What are you giving up in your life by being controlling? Usually there's some amount of energy that we could be spending otherwise. We could be spending taking a walk or starting a business or making new friends. We could be doing so many other things with our energy rather than micromanaging and hovering over our partner like they are a child to us. You ask any parent out there, being a parent is not easy. And so why would we want to be doing that with our partner unnecessarily? And if your partner really needs to be controlled, if they're doing some crazy behavior, that in itself is a conversation that you could have with yourself. What are you willing to put up with at this point? If they are in an active addiction, that's kind of a tricky topic. I don't want to get too far into it, but certainly there's a question here around if your partner is doing some crazy behavior, like they're gone for 3 days at a time without telling you, I would then have the conversation with myself or a therapist or a coach around, is this even worth it for me to feel like I have to control this person? By being controlling with your partner in subtle ways, are you giving up connection with them? I could tell you that that's what I was giving up. Do you feel that you're giving up connection with the level of control that you are attempting to impose on your partner? Connection can't happen when we are all clenched and on edge and stressed about how our partner is going to act or dress or behave. So after you have taken a look at how it feels to be in this behavior or to receive this behavior, what you're giving up as a result of it, can you sit with where your urges may stem from? As I mentioned earlier, you may have learned them from your parents. And once you do realize that, you might find it uncomfortable to be around your parents because they probably are still in the same dynamic, most likely. When did you learn that control was your only option? I remember that occurring to me and the freedom of realizing that there were other options. I didn't have to choose subtle controlling behavior all the time. So when did you learn that subtle control was your only option? That subtle manipulation was the only way that you could be in a relationship with another person? What are you afraid might happen if you don't impose subtle control on your partner? What would happen if you were to lose that sense of control? It can sound scary. Oh, I'm going to lose control. But I can tell you right now, losing control is actually quite freeing. What are you afraid would happen if you lost control? Would your partner leave you? Would you feel rejected by society? Would you not be good enough? Would you not be a good enough partner? Would your household just go to shit and everything would just be dirty and messy and disgusting? Would you be hurt by either your partner or yourself? If you're trying to control your partner's behavior, are you afraid that you might be rejected by society, by others, by your friends and family? Don't feel pressured to sit down and all in one day uncover all of the secrets of why you are the way you are. It's not that we need to overanalyze and spin our wheels on this. It's just getting a general understanding so that we can actually build some compassion. Like, oh, this is why I do this. I'm not crazy. I'm not a horrible partner. I'm not a bitch. I'm not an asshole. It's because I learned this from my parents. I learned this from my aunts and uncles. I learned this from society. Can you then catch yourself in the moment before you act on the impulse to control? Can you then catch yourself when you have the impulse to impose subtle control onto your partner? Now, I'm not saying you need to stop yourself quite yet, because the first step with that would just be catching yourself, noticing. Again, going back to the awareness, we're bringing awareness into the very granular level of when that impulse comes up, going, there it is. That's the impulse to control. Now, in the first stages, you can just let yourself continue your behavior. No need to self-flagellate and think about how horrible of a person you are. It's just catching yourself in the moment and bringing an awareness that it's happening right now. This can be a very subtle thing to do because it requires a level of inner awareness. So a level of understanding within ourselves in order to catch ourselves. We might need to be able to listen to our inner voice. We might need to get in touch with our sensations in the body. When you get that impulse to control your partner, do you feel a knot in your stomach? Do you feel your shoulders tense up? What's the voice in your head saying? Being very, very in touch with our inner world. It's very, very helpful. In fact, I would say it's crucial to this step. And this step takes time. So if you don't already have a relationship with yourself, it can take time to develop that and then to bring in the awareness of your impulses. But once you have done that, the next step would be to actually stop or at least change your impulse, your behavior that comes up with the trigger. So the trigger comes up, my partner washes the dishes in the wrong way. There's the trigger. In that moment, can I catch myself? Ooh, I'm starting to see red. I'm starting to feel fuzzy in my brain. And I'm just about to say, motherfucker. I'm just about to go on the attack. So I'm catching myself right here. Okay, we're here. We're in the moment. We're slowing time down like the Matrix. Okay, here we are. I'm feeling the sensations. I'm feeling like I just really want to fling some shit at my partner. I really want to project my shit on him. Can I, now that I've learned to catch myself, how am I going to change what comes next? This is not about saying nothing. This isn't about shutting down your own desires. This isn't about you being wrong and them being right. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I definitely don't want it to sound like you have to stop speaking every time you get this impulse. But we certainly can learn to express our desired, our needs, make requests in a more loving and compassionate way in that moment. I would like to recommend this very helpful book that I have mentioned in a previous episode. It's called Nonviolent Communication, and it is by Marshall B. Rosenberg. It's a fabulous book. I would say if you are looking for more loving, compassionate ways to communicate with your partner in these moments of trigger, around anything. It doesn't have to be control. It can just be maybe you're having just trouble expressing your feelings or you have some problems with anger. This is a wonderful book. It gives you a broken down strategy for expressing yourself in 4 steps. I will briefly go over the steps. I don't want to get too into the weeds. Just know that there is so much information in this book that I would never be able to cover in a matter of 5 minutes. The steps are, there's 4 of them. The first one is making the observation. So that would be when I noticed that there was food crusted onto the bowl that you washed last night. The second step would be feelings. I felt really disappointed and upset because it made me feel like I have to be responsible for the house being clean all the time. The third step would be stating your needs. What do you need from this situation? And the fourth step would be a request. So you're making a request for the future. I bring that up because I want to emphasize that this is not about you shutting up and going from controlling to just not speaking. You certainly can speak, and you can speak in a way that will come across much more compassionately to your partner and therefore much more effectively. Nobody wants to be spoken to in a condescending tone or attacked when they're not expecting it. And when we do that, we're actually taking away the effectiveness of our communication. And don't we all want to be heard in a way that is received well and then actually implemented? So this book will help you express your feelings around controlling behaviors, where they're coming from, why you're doing these things, and then to actually take steps towards changing that behavior in yourself and in your partner. This will be very supportive to you in doing that. If you're looking to mitigate your own controlling behavior, I would also recommend working with a coach or a therapist. We can do a lot of this on our own. We can read books like the one I just mentioned, and it's helpful to have a guide, a professional who understands how to navigate these things in a non-biased way. So if you are wanting to do your own work, I encourage that. And it would be great, it would be helpful if you're feeling like you're getting lost in the weeds, which can totally happen. We're working with emotions here. Emotions are not always straightforward. Okay, I worked on this and now I feel better. Like it's not always like that. Sometimes we pull on a string and there are 7 other strings attached to it. Working with a coach or a therapist will help you to navigate all of those different strings in a way that feels structured and will get you some really great results that you may not have been able to achieve without one. If you are feeling controlled by your partner and you're not knowing how to go about working through that, I would first say in this show, I really don't speak on abusive relationships. So if that's what you feel like you're on the other end of, I am not the specialist in that subject, so please don't take any of my advice around relationships if you feel you are in a physically, emotionally, or mentally abusive relationship. I'm really speaking towards just the average relationship where we want things to be perfect, but they're just not a lot of the time. They're messy. So if you do feel you're on the other end of subtle manipulation, subtle control, I would still recommend reading this book, Nonviolent Communication, so that you can express that to your partner in a way that is effective and that they can actually understand how it feels. Do you feel small when they try to control you? Does it remind you of how your father was, how your mother was? A lot of the time, that is the case. If we are submitting to control or if we are on the other end of someone who is attempting to control us, it's actually something that we may have learned to do. We may have learned to fawn, to appease a controlling person in our past, in our childhood. And so I would recommend this book. And of course, again, working with a coach or a therapist that can help you to express yourself and look at some of the underlying causes for this and help you work through the emotions, because it's not easy. I said at the beginning of the episode, it's not easy for either partner. I would say it's especially not easy for the person who is under the thumb of the other person. And like I said, too, we can change roles. I have seen it where the male is controlling around money and the female is controlling around how the kids are taken care of. It could be anything. I just want to say that it's not always so straightforward that she is controlling and he is submissive. Some of the long-term effects of actually working on this shit, on mitigating your controlling behavior or your partners, on helping them to do so, is it builds trust. That is the big thing here. We're wanting to build trust so that we can build our connection and ultimately bring more love into our relationship. If you want to feel more love, you're tired of disconnection, you're tired of distrust, you're tired of feeling like this bitchy, naggy asshole, whatever the case is, this is the work that I would recommend you do. Looking into your own stuff. Where does it come from? This builds trust within our relationship. We are demonstrating not only that we trust our partner's judgment, but that we can trust our own judgment. I can let go. I can be free of these constraints of control. I trust this bond that I have with my partner. It's the ultimate act of freedom, too. We're freeing ourselves, we're freeing our partner from our shit, and we're building this really nice, solid foundation that we can then continue to grow with our partner and create safety, not safety like physical safety from harm. I'm talking safety of the nervous system. I feel safe. I don't feel like I'm under attack anymore. Like I have to be controlling because I'm going to be attacked otherwise. You get to relax. You get to fucking relax in your relationship. No more feeling like you have to be this way. This is the rule. You get to relax and you get to be free. And the best part is that you're allowing life to happen the way that it probably was going to anyway. No amount of control was probably going to change the trajectory of your life. So we're just allowing life to happen. That's all I have for you today on control. If you have any questions or you'd like to connect with me on social media, I am at Coached by Kelby. That's on Instagram and TikTok. That's my handle. You can also reach out to me via email if you have any questions or you have any requests for topics for me to cover. I would love to hear from you. You can reach me at coachedbykelby@gmail.com. And if you're wanting to work through anything that I spoke on today, please do reach out to me. I'd love to work with you one-on-one. I offer sessions to individuals and to couples as well. If you're going through this dynamic with your partner, I would love to help you work through it. So please do reach out to me on social or at my email address, and I would love to guide you through all of this stuff.